were you mad at your oppressors for oppressing you? Or were you mad at your oppressors because you wanted an opportunity to oppress the same way? I was interpreting them speaking out about things as radical when in actuality the conservativeness was always there.
Sometimes it don't make no sense. Does it really have to? There is nothing I can say.
Hi, welcome to Maya's world. Okay, so I have some thoughts that I'm gonna try and piece together in this video. I'm sure in the past couple weeks, you all have seen what's going on with Kanye West, the outrageous things he said.
A straight white male can't say, hey, a black employee didn't come in to work on time, because then people will say you're racist. A straight white male can't speak on a homosexual person because they'll say you're homophobic. And so I empathize with the position of the straight white male. And part of the reason why I empathize with that position is because I know that I'm headed to that position. And what position that is? Top power position. Okay. That's the top power position.
The things that he said that has been targeting black women, just the array of Kanye being Kanye, ultimately. But this really had me thinking about a trend I see. I'm coining it. I'm calling it the conscious to conservative pipeline. As soon as you add pipeline to anything, it just really be sounding like it's, you know what I'm saying, progressive. But I really have noticed, growing up, people who were considered really radical or radical for their time are now conservative. So I said a tweet the other day that got some of the girls' feathers a little riled up, where I said, the fact that most black rappers that were considered radical and for the people ended up being black conservatives in the 21st century is comical. And I realized that this isn't exclusive to rap. This is actually just kind of across the board. But today we're going to be focusing on rappers who were radical, who were radical for their time and who are now very conservative. Let's start with Kanye. So Kanye, okay, mind you, I grew up in the 90s. I was a kid in the 90s. So all of my perspective of how I interpreted or felt about rap music, about hip hop was like these rappers I'm talking about was how I felt growing up, what it meant for me growing up. So growing up, I remember when Kanye came on the scene, and I'm not even gonna lie to you, I thought Kanye was radical. Like I really did as a kid. I thought he was radical because do you guys remember that interview that he did? And I think it was for Red Cross, and it was when Katrina had happened, and he really got on, like, we're going to watch it together, but he really was like, George Bush don't care about black people. Like, when he said that, I feel like not only was this just such a funny moment because of how everybody responded, like even Chris Tucker was shook. Even Chris Tucker was like, bro, you did not stick to the script. So growing up, seeing him do that, seeing him advocate for Katrina. I remember also seeing Lil Wayne advocate for Katrina. I thought it was radical. You know what I'm saying? Speaking on environmental racism, I feel like that was a radical thing. Let's watch it together. I don't know if I can play the full video because I don't want my video taken down, but let's just watch.
Anybody out there that wants to do anything that we can help with the setup, the way America is set up to help the poor, the black people, the less well off as slow as possible. I mean, Red Cross is doing everything they can. We already realize a lot of the people that could help are at war right now, fighting another way, and they've given them permission to go down and shoot us.
And subtle, but in even many ways more profoundly devastating, is the lasting damage to the survivors' will to rebuild and remain in the area. The destruction of the spirit of the people of southern Louisiana and Mississippi may end up being the most tragic loss of all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Please call.
Because the way he turned like this, Chris Tucker, like, no, and that phrase became like the phrase, I grew up, I'm from the South. I grew up with George Bush being in office. And like for me being in the South, like speaking bad about George Bush was, I mean, black people didn't like George Bush. He was low key like our Trump. But to see someone publicly say it on TV, like I really felt like that was a radical moment. And so to see where he is now, to see where Kanye is being anti-fat, phobic, to see where he's making fun of black women, to see where he is making fun of, where he's saying Harriet Tubman, slavery was a choice, all these things, which to be honest, I don't even know why anybody is still like the way that you guys are dick riding this man. Like he is your soul sugar daddy. Like I don't understand. Like I'm so confused why people are still on his train, still trying to do some weird mental gymnastics. Like I'd rather you just be honest and say anything this man does, like he is a god for me. I'd rather you just say that than try to explain it, because if and everyone knows like the plot is very much so lost. And I think it's so interesting that someone who he said in the video, he mentioned black people, now says things along the lines of like race not even being real and like the only race is the human race and like all these things. And it really made me reflect to myself actually about the fact that were these rappers ever radical, or were they signaling that they were radical, or was it that I was interpreting them speaking out about things as radical when in actuality the conservativeness was always there. When in actuality Kanye's music has always been misogynistic. And I feel like a lot of times rappers who are considered conscious, I'm not saying Kanye is a conscious rapper, but a lot of rappers who are considered conscious rappers openly have a lot of misogyny in their music. They will openly have a very horophobic, talking badly about women who want to make money off of sex work, or who make money off of sex work, openly talking very bad about things that kind of turn their back against conservative rhetoric. So then it made me think to myself, maybe we are the ones to blame. Maybe I am the one to blame. Maybe I was seeing something in someone that wasn't there, because, you know, like I said, I remember when Lil Wayne had a song and he was talking about Katrina, and that was really moving for the time. But then Lil Wayne doesn't even, you know, he's post-racial.
I don't know what racism is. No good name Uncle Bob, though. I thought that was clearly a message that there was no such thing as racism.
And I just kind of wonder, is it the money that makes you so disconnected from people? Or is it that this was who you always wanted to be? Or is it that were you mad at your oppressors for oppressing you? Or were you mad at your oppressors because you wanted an opportunity to oppress the same way? And sometimes I think it's really the latter. I'm also not the first person to say this, but a lot of black men who we clearly see aspire towards whiteness. If you saw in the clip in the very beginning when Kanye was saying that he really empathizes deeply with white men, like, I really believe he's doing this because he knows that he wants to align himself with a class that he wants to be in good graces with. And he knows that if he is in good graces with white men, it's like at the top of the food chain, and that, you know, and I think looking back, I'm kind of realizing a lot of people just wanted to be white men. A lot of people just wanted to be white men. Like for Lil Wayne sit up in this interview after having lyrics criticizing the government, criticizing George Bush, especially, like, I think it's really interesting, the audience that people go, like, why is it that when you want to big up white men and talk about how great they are, talk about how racism isn't real, like, why are y'all on white TV shows? Or like, what, I would love to see y'all sit in a room of black women and tell them the same things, but you don't, because you know that we would chew you guys up for pieces. So instead you go to the people who you want to assimilate the most towards. And something that's always helped me with realizing a lot about blackness and colorism and all the isms is when you realize that a lot of people act and do actions with the intention of not wanting to be black and not wanting to continue to be black. I feel like every single time people make fun of black women's features or make fun of black women or a colorist or a texturist, that is a side of them that does not want to be black. And seeing someone who lives in that truth really triggers them, really affects them negatively, so they try to tear it down. And I also want to call out Killer Mike as well, because Killer Mike is an artist that a lot of people, even myself, I felt like was a very conscious rapper. But seeing how he's been moving politically, how he wants to align himself with Brian Kemp. And for those who don't know who Brian Kemp is, let me just put a video that I think, you know, you can kind of get an idea.
I got a big truck, just in case I need to round up criminal illegals and take them home myself. Yep, I just said that. I'm Brian Kemp. If you want a politically incorrect conservative, that's me.
My question is, why is Killer Mike aligning himself with somebody like this? Like I'm not saying you have to like Stacey Abrams or you have to like her, but like, you don't have to say anything. There's a lot of people who I see two people arguing. I don't like either side. I just don't say anything. I'm not trying to create companionship with someone who I know doesn't like me, doesn't like my people. Very strange. A lot of what he does just really appears like he's intentionally antagonistic to Black women. And it's giving weird, like the way he's consistently aligning himself with white men as well, like in a different way. I'm not liking it. I think virtually signaling as you are a radical and for the people is something that a lot of Black artists and creators have to do at some point to kind of be seen as historically important. Because, and you know, the truth is that being radical is a come up for a lot of people. And I've said this in a lot of videos before. If you look at my Murad Murali video about people who are non-Black who will signal to Black people as radical, but Black people also do that for ourselves. And I think that something that I realized from doing my research on all these people who were once radical and are now conservative is to have discernment and to not be simply sold just because someone is telling me that they're down for something or cool about something. And then now we have people like Jay-Z who want to compare being called a capitalist to being called the N-word. And it's like the plot is so lost. Like there is no need for like doing research. There's no need for honoring the people who you're cosplaying as physically, of looking radical, of looking pro-Black, of looking all of these things. But like deep down, you're a capitalist. Like it's so wild to me because, but I think to me, the lesson in here is not necessarily that there's a pipeline from radical to conservative, but it's that people cosplay, people pretend, and people lie. And I think when you realize that, like, at least for me, it helped me understand things. So now if I see someone who is misogynistic, if I see someone who is being any of the isms, colorist, anti-Black, misogynistic, anti-fat, all these things, I am aware to divest earlier, to just say no earlier, because that is what set, like, you're still standing on the back. Like, a lot of Black rappers stand on the backs of Black women. They stand on the backs of Black women, and then they want to go and later shit on Black women. Like, Kanye, we was rocking with you through the freaking song Gold Digger that culturally just, I feel like someone should do like a write-up about how the song Gold Digger made it like terrible for, or I don't know, I feel like created this kind of like feeling that you should not be looking at people's money. Meanwhile, men are objectifying you for way less. But it made you feel like saying, hey, I actually want something in response for the objectification, you're demonized. So people were rocking with him for all that long just to end up like this. Even when I reflect back on Tupac, who we all revere as someone who was very conscious and very radical and radical for their time. Like, the way people gloss over the sexual assault allegations that he has against him and want to make excuses when you can literally watch the woman speak. Like, for me, when I heard her speak, I believe her. But like how that is like really controversial, and like, but even before the sexual allegation cases, like the music that he's saying, how he's talking about women, how he's talking about, you know, even the song Brenda's Got a Baby. I found that song really interesting because as a kid, I was like, okay, that song actually scared me as a kid because it just really was, but I don't know, like there's always this tone that atrocities happen. It's kind of like girls making the wrong mistake. Like so many conscious rappers, like I remember Lupe had a song like that. J. Cole has a song like that about like girls making wrong mistakes that end up doing sex work and then they end up pregnant. So much criticism on how women respond to violence, respond to sexual abuse, and respond to trying to freaking survive in this society. But when it's coming about rapping about selling drugs to your own community to come up, that's, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that people think that's fine, but it doesn't have the same kind of, they're not punched at the same way that when women have to do alternative things or sex work to survive, it's not seen in the same revered light. When I talk about the conscious to conservative pipeline, or people who were once radical that are now like staunch conservative, really anti-black, like who comes to your minds? Which artists do you consider like this? Who, not even just artists, but who comes to your mind? Like, I want to know, because I was really kikiing in the tweets about who people were naming, because it's really true. Like, misogyny is usually a telltale sign that this is not all together. The package is not packaging. So yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.